Latanzia, what subjects are you good at?
Writing.
Yeah, and then?
Writing.
Yes.
Reading.
Yes.
Computer.
Are you good at all of those?
No.
I quite like the isolation. I don't mind being out here. It's beautiful country, it's hard country, and there are challenges just in that alone.
The unforgiving, semi-arid desert of the Northern Territory. Out here, on the rim of the Tanami Desert, is the small mining town of Warrego.
Warrego for me was to be a retirement job. I wasn't really prepared for what I walked into.
In its heyday, nearly 3,000 people called this home. But it was a company town, and when the mine closed down, so did the town. Everybody left. Everybody, that is. Except for two very special people. Since 1999, Colin and Sandra Baker have been living alone in a ghost town. Colin and Sandra were baby boomers from the East Coast. They came to Warrego to work at the primary school.
I hadn't taught for nearly 32 years, but I'd been involved in education both in the military and in tertiary education.
Colin to take up the position of principal, and Sandra the administration officer.
As well as the teacher's assistant, the cook, the laundry lady, the first aid officer, generally the nanny.
I'd retired from the Army Reserve, which had been a large part of my life, and I'd recently wrapped up a consultancy business.
Colin was nearing the end of his working career. He was ready for a low-stress job as the principal of a small rural school.
Colin arrived first, and then about a month later, Jamie, our corgi dog, and I arrived, and then a little after that, Sadhu, Colin's Arabian horse, arrived.
More of a desert change rather than the traditional sea change. But 4 months after they had arrived, Colin and Sandra were informed that the mining company, Normandy, had decided that it was no longer viable to keep its operations going at Warrego.
All the people were to leave. The town was basically redundant. The children needed to be reassured that there was life after Warrego. The instruction I was given by the group school principal was to get the children from the school as well prepared as possible to transfer to other schools. So really I was administering educational redundancy, I guess.
By the end of that year, the houses were empty, the shops and clubs closed. The water turned off. The garden's dying, and the splashing and fun in the pool only a memory. Colin and Sandra found themselves the sole residents of Warrego. But they weren't about to leave yet. Colin, at 56, wasn't ready to give up his retirement job.
I was also thrown a challenge, and that was if I could get the 11 children who lived at Munglawuru, an Aboriginal community about 36 kilometres west of Warrego to come to school, I could keep it open. For the next 6 months, I spent a considerable amount of my time attempting to persuade the children to come to school. But the mining community and the Aboriginal community were not talking to each other. The children had a history of very poor attendance, and I really had no success. I decided really that all I could do at Warrego was do the best I could for the students I had and close the school at the end of 1999. Then I had some luck. I was riding Sadhu out on the road behind the school when a beaten up Sigma pulled up, and a chap called Colin Freddy, who turned out to be a traditional owner, though I didn't know it at the time, got out of the car, walked across to me and said, "Are you the school teacher, mister?" And I said, "Yes, I was." And he said, "Can you teach our children to ride?"
We got that school still going. Yeah, really good.
He went on and said, "We used to be stockmen. We'd like to work cattle here, and we'd like our children to learn to ride. And if you can teach them to ride, I'll bring them to school and I'll come and I'll help you." So I thought for a few seconds and thought, that's got to be worth a try.
You got a good place for them little fellas riding horses all the time, you know? Keep their training all the time, teaching, really good, galloping, jumping, no let.
The next morning, this beaten up Sigma arrived, and it was Colin Freddy, and he had 11 children on board. And we've had all of the children from the community at school every day ever since.
Why do you think it's important to go to school?
To learn more, to wag, you will learn anything, and you have to learn your date of birth. That's the one, it's important. If you don't go to school, you won't. If you have to sign a paper about your date of birth and your name, and you wouldn't know how to spell your name and do your date of birth.
The concept behind the idea is that we've got to get kids motivated and back into school. It's about getting schooling culture back into these students. For various reasons, they've dropped out of school, lost interest in it, don't see a purpose for it. So something like a horse program, it's a whole new reason to go to school.
If it wasn't for those two there, Sadhu and Hakey, Warrego School would be part of the ghost town and the Mungallawurra children wouldn't be at school. It really is that simple.
Who do you live with?
Mary and Eva,
Who are they?
they are the two old women who come to Warrego School.
Our children live with 3 carers, Mari, Eva and Elizabeth.
2 of the carers come to school every day, Mari and Eva. It's good to have them at school. They are very helpful when it comes to discipline with the children. They're also a stabilising influence on the children in the playground. Eva is very interested in the horse riding, and she loves to go down and watch the children ride, and she has a wonderful sense of humour.
Mari and Eva are going to listen to me tell you where you're up to, so that we all know who's good at what and who's got some more things to learn. They're very helpful if we have a disciplinary problem or a question of whether something is appropriate for a child to learn or do or see.
You can do it on match, you can do it on silver, so you actually did it. She was very good. Very hard.
The carers and the traditional owners hold the view that Indigenous issues should be dealt by them in the community, and that the school's role is to teach the children the skills they need to be able to operate in the broader Australian context.
Like a white fellow, well, you could teach him that way. If you're Aboriginal, you could do that. You know? That's right, too, see? Aboriginal, yeah. Aboriginal, you know? Culture. Yeah. Culture teaching, yeah. Would you learn? or yeah, with the little ones, you know, tanting all that, carveries, yeah.
Now, whether children go on to live in the community or move further afield is not something that we worry about at school. We try between the school and the community to equip our children to be successful in both worlds.
Where do your parents live?
Down at town.
Town is Tennant Creek, on the main highway between Alice Springs and Darwin, 90 kilometres from the community and 50 kilometres from Warrego School.
And is it okay not living with your parents?
Yeah. Sometimes I fight.
A number of the children have been sent out to live at Mangrawuru because of alcohol problems and other problems in the town, and the families don't want them raised in that environment. So they send them back to the bush, to their grandmothers, great-grandmothers, to be raised in the traditional manner.
Most of the kids like to stay at bush because it's good for them from town. They don't go to town school much because some of the kids walk around in town everywhere with their parents.
They're going to stay here because close to school. Yeah, they can go weekend and someone can come pick him up and bring him back. Yeah. That's all right. There's a lot of trouble at town, you know? All them little fellas. Yeah.
What do the kids get up to in town?
Those kids in town, if they go back at them and start breaking, like stealing, smashing, drinking, walking around with friends, something like that.
Breaking about everything.
Yeah.
Smashing glasses.
Smashing about the house.
Smashing things.
Stealing but.
Fighting in town. Putting someone else in trouble in town. And there's no way we can get away from there.
When we're looking after that, they come to school every day.
Yeah, but keep away.
We don't let them to go back to town. And sometimes when it's school holiday, then they can go back to their parents.
The desert people tended to have old people communities which were more sedentary, whilst the younger people moved in bigger arcs around that to hunt. But it's developed also in response to an attempt to raise children away from some of the evils of the town and to make sure that children absorb the important aspects of their own culture.
Where do you live?
Bush.
Which bush?
Bangalore.
Tell me, Colin, what Mangalawara means.
That's that rain. Rain?
Rain.
Yeah, springtime. Yeah, we got that old stone standing up over here, isn't it? Rain dream, springtime, you know, all early days. When old people were making the rain. Yeah, dancing, you know. Old people been just dancing, making the rain.
Bush is good for them, like go hunting, go walk about with dogs, and go out looking for bush food, like go on or something like that.
A bush coconut.
Oh, two ladies did in that. Yeah. Show all them bush tag and all that. They get a bush, they can eat him and cook him. They eat. And they cook, all right.
Nanja
We teach them how to talk and we point them what we need. We talk it and we get this in language and they go and get it for us. We tell them to find food in language. Sometimes they find the track themselves. We show the track like go on a track. Sometimes they go themselves.
When we go look around for geographs, we find one and we get it out with crowbars and we take them back to home and we put it in the fire and cook them up and eat it.
What's it taste like?
Good.
Manglaruru community is a very traditional community. About 50% of the food consumed at Manglaruru is hunted and gathered, and that sort of food is not very portable for school lunches. When we started, we got the odd goanna tail in the fridge, but that wasn't going to solve the problem.
After the mine closed and we only had the Indigenous students, we thought it might be better if we could actually give them a hot meal in the middle of the day. So we talked to the carers about this and they were quite happy. So each Thursday we go into town and we buy our supplies. Weekends, I make the stews. Most weekends I make about 30 to 35 litres of stew. That lasts about 3 or 4 days depending on how many people I'm feeding that week.
I don't like broccoli. Broccolis or broccolis?
We also find that with the children, feeding them like this, that they've got a lot more energy. That has its upside and downside.
Out of that, we've evolved a nutrition program that's probably unique in that it's self-funded by the community, and it's had a big impact on the children's health.
Amos, what do you like to eat?
Vegemite, napara, and honey.
Our health program is run in conjunction with the Ananingi Health Congress, that's the Aboriginal Health Centre in town, and the audiometrist from the hospital is also involved.
Hayley, come on, get your ears done, quickly.
The children generally have fairly significant health issues. Hearing, their ears are probably the worst. Sit down, that's it. Okay, big blow first. Really big blow. Get it nicely cleaned out. From continuous ear infections from tiny children, most of them have perforated eardrums or damaged eardrums. Recent testing of the children showed that 80% of them have moderate to severe hearing loss.
Face me. Turn around, face me.
3 of the children are to be fitted with bone conductors. 2 already have them. Little 5-year-old is about to get one.
Okay, off you go.
The other children all have some hearing loss. We talk to them about being healthy and the lifestyle they need to live, to remain healthy. They also come to school with really nasty eyes sometimes. They're infected from fly bite, from sand, and some of them are quite swollen and closed up. So it takes a little bit of work to bring the swelling down and make the children feel comfortable. First thing in the morning is showering, getting nice and clean, then to me to have their first aid done, with the diet that we've got the children on at school and the health program and the physical program, the children are much, much healthier.
Casita, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Be a nurse.
And why do you want to be a nurse?
To help some people. Every morning we do horse riding as well. We catch the horses, then we brush them, then put saddles on them, and we go riding. Right.
All right. Do you want to ride him back or do you want to give him to bed?
What we decided to do was to write a horsemanship program similar to what I'd seen at New England Girls' School in Armidale.
Now we're going to start putting the letters on the menage where they fit. G.
And used that horsemanship program to teach large chunks of the curriculum.
Ride on the school. That sounds funny, doesn't it? To ride the school, you ride the rectangle. So you go round here. And that's called riding on the school.
We decided that we'd use it in health, in phys ed, but we'd also use it to do things like oral language and mathematics. In other words, we'd milk the horsemanship for whatever we could get out of it.
And how big should it be?
20.
And what is each one of these things? 100. No, it's 100 centimetres is 1 metre. Can you say again?
1 metre.
Hands up like an aeroplane. Hands on key. Hands up like an aeroplane. What do you want to be when you grow up?
Horseman. And soldier.
This is M. And we'll go back to X.
That's why you got them old fellas riding horses again, you know, teaching. That's a good idea. You go to Tennant Creek, you can't see them little fellas riding like that, you know. Eh? That's right.
Colin Freddy and his brother Bryan used to be stockmen for the large cattle stations in the region.
Where were you working?
Rocky. Meaning, we all come from Rocky, Rockhampton and Elroy down. Yeah. We've been working there, I've been working in Elroy for 8 years when I was a young fellow.
Colin has a very clear idea as to why he thinks that the children should go to school and learn to ride. He has plans to run cattle on Mangalawuru. He sees it as a possible future means of sustaining the community.
Land, yeah, we gotta do drafting and all that, you know. Branding on cradle or knocking a bulldog. That's how we're gonna land them little fellas too, you know. Them girl and a boy doing the throwing, just grabbing from it, and as long as you got a bloke there for pulling down and got a thrown tail. As long as he's watching not to get kicked, that's all. Yeah.
Get up straight. Wiggle your fingers down the road.
Each weekend I do the washing. This weekend there'll be 6 loads of washing. Uniforms, riding gear, warm tops, towels. And then in the summer there are extra loads because we have swimming gear, swimming towels and club uniforms. It's a bit like being the mother of the football team, except that I get to do the washing every weekend.
The tansies are very easy to find. No, they're not. No.
Saturday afternoons I also get to do probably the job that I'm actually paid for, because I'm paid as the school's administrative officer and teacher assistant. But with all the other things we do during the week, I only get to this job on Saturday afternoons or Sundays. I don't get interrupted by children or phones or anything else. I can get a straight go at them.
One of the interesting things is it's caused a bit of comment at higher level about the only school in the Northern Territory that can say they've got 100% attendance. Actually, when the statistics are spread around the department, it really stands out to see an Aboriginal school with 100% kids turning up.
But right from the beginning, there was a major problem. Getting the children from Mungalawuru community to school and back again every day.
We could live without the buildings at Warrego. We'd get by if we didn't have classrooms, but we certainly couldn't exist without this bus. It's transport that's critical to us, but it's more than that. The bus is a teaching vehicle in more ways than one.
The 80-kilometre round trip had to be made twice a day on a badly rutted road, covered in bull dust in the dry season, or water over the axles in the wet. Colin Freddy originally took up the challenge in his old car.
He started bringing the children to school along this very road, and you can see if you look at it just how bad it can be.
But Colin Freddy needed fuel to do it, so every second or third day, he would have to drive another 180-kilometre round trip to the nearest petrol station at Tennant Creek.
On one occasion, he broke down 18 kilometres from school and the children walked in. When they arrived, they had salt caked around their mouths and bloody feet, but they were really quite triumphant about the whole business. But we knew it was difficult and we started to look for alternatives. We were lucky in that at the beginning of 2000, as a result of the Collins Review, the school was presented with a Toyota Land Cruiser troop carrier.
Although the Land Cruiser meant that the children could get to school each day, the vehicle belonged to the Department of Education. That created another burden for Colin and Sandra. They were the only ones authorised to drive it.
We started off just using it as transport, but it wasn't very long before we decided to teach in it. To start off, it was fairly random, but we gradually got some sort of program into it. The school operated with a Toyota Land Cruiser for 2.5 years, reasonably successfully.
Word spread that going to school had become much more interesting. You got to ride horses. So, more kids started coming.
Hello.
But there was a downside to this success. The Land Cruiser could only carry half the children. That meant double the trips.
That necessitated splitting the school into two halves. We picked up in the morning at 7:30 and taught until 12:30. Then we picked up again at 1 and taught until about 5:30.
But either Colin or Sandra were now driving 240 kilometres every day, plus a number of trips each week to Tennant Creek for fuel. The driving began to take its toll, and the Bakers were exhausted and close to giving up.
Mr. Baker wrote a letter for the big busman, and we was waiting for answer for that bus, and we got that bus.
As a result, we collected the bus you see now about 12 months ago. When I get out of the bus in Bungalawuru picking up children, I'm face to face with the parents and the community and the situation from which the children come. I believe that the area of influence for the school extends at least as far as the community and maybe a little bit beyond it, and that the bus gives me access to that.
Where'd you get a nice dog like that from? You must be rich.
The children like to learn through singing, so we started using tapes.
11, 12, 132, and 12, 12, 144.
Kids can sing all the way. The timetables, ABC for kids, and song, how to sing, how to sound the words, spellings.
So if you want to see a group and you don't want to go to the zoo, a bush in Australia is the only place you'll ever see.
Liam, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Bus driver.
Why do you want to be a bus driver?
Teach some kids. Teach.
What happens to people if they bring some grog on here?
Well, we're going to see all the police from Tennant Creek, you know. The people come out making a muck here. Yeah, we got to telephone and ring them back for them.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
Police officer.
Yeah.
But no drinking on the community?
No. See, if people going to go back from here and drink there and come back might be next morning, you know. Yeah. Hangover? With headache, you know? Yeah. Yeah.
And why do you want to be a police officer?
I like arresting them.
Make a line.
Right.
Make a space for Hayley.
Oh, she always.
Now, in the line, thanks. Now, put your hands on your head. Now sit down and blow bubbles. Now, I want you this time to push, glide, float and kick. Go.
We got into swimming a bit by accident. We were documenting the mining community's children for transfer to other schools, and we were filling out the forms, ticking boxes, you know, good at maths, not so good at English, plays rugby or whatever. And when we got to swimming, I increasingly noticed we were ticking can't swim. I talked to the parents and said, this seems to be very strange. We've got a 25-metre pool in the Warrego community, and it had been there for nearly 30 years. Nobody had pushed swimming at the school for some time, so I decided that we'd start a Learn to Swim program.
Up and down, down and blow bubbles.
After the mine site children had left, Colin decided to continue the swimming program with the kids from the desert. But without a functioning pool in Warrego, he has to drive the children to Tennant Creek 3 times a week for training, or to a dam just north of Tennant Creek.
We got to the stage, curiously enough, where we were swimming enough laps to swim perhaps competitively. So I investigated joining the Tennant Creek Swimming Club. We joined. The first swimming event for us at the club was a swimathon. Some of my little Aboriginal kids walked down the town and collected sponsorship. Business people looked at them and kindly offered $2 a lap, thinking that 2 or 3 laps would be the most these desert children could swim. One of my small boys managed to swim 170 laps that night and cost one of the shopkeepers quite a lot of money. Swimming's become a major activity for Warrego School, and it contributes to our health program. It produces healthy children. And it also produces very confident children.
Now listen, we've been swimming in a dam. It's full of mud. You have to keep looking up to see where you're going. So if you do that, you get slower. Take your mark.
When they can beat mainstream children in open competition and inter-club carnivals in Darwin and Katherine and Alice Springs, the confidence boost is enormous, and that confidence boost carries over into the way they tackle the mainstream subjects in the curriculum. We had a little money left in the bank at the time the mine was closing for the last time. We had it supplemented from the miners' boozer, and we decided we'd spend it going to one swimming carnival.
Heat 1. Now lane 1 and 2 are empty.
We packed our gear and went to Alice Springs, where the children were successful. I can't remember how many medals we won, but it was quite a lot.
Take your mark.
Lane 7, CJ James, Tennant Creek.
I won this at Alice Spring Carnival.
At the end of the carnival, a gentleman came over to me and said, "You've done very well, I guess you'll be at the next one." And I said, "No, that's the last of the money, it's all over." It was a one-shot operation. He turned out to be Ken Hart from Australian Adventure Tours, and he very generously said, "We'll sponsor your swimming, so you can come back." So with sponsorship from Australian Adventure Tours and from Australian Swimming, we managed to do 4 away swimming carnivals a year, and you can see by the medals on the wall in the library that we've been very successful indeed.
Without the generosity of business and some individuals, the result of sustained fundraising activities by Colin and Sandra, the program could not continue.
Zoe, what do you want to be when you grow up?
I don't know.
And in 3rd place, Zoe Lauder from Tennant Creek Swimming Club on a time of 41:57.
In 2003, Zoe Lauder qualified to go to training camp and train with Ian Thorpe.
I'll call out the letter and who's got to do it, and they come out and do it.
This is probably the first school in the Northern Territory to take on such a venture. Of course, the whole focus of this program is to get literacy and numeracy delivered in schools. So we'll try anything to get kids involved in learning. Across the dozen schools, we have a lot of different approaches where we encourage anything that a teacher will take on to get kids involved in learning and to get literacy and numeracy outcomes. So, if they're riding horses, that's all right.
Round the edge, we call that the circumference. Say it for me.
Circumference.
Say it again.
Circumference.
You draw, round you go. Round, right the way round. Round, that's it, yes. That's a nice round one. Good girl.
During the week, most of my work really, I suppose, is that of a teacher's assistant. I help Colin in the classroom with the children, prepare most of the work for the children, and then supervise the computer lessons.
And you can stop at the end. Is that a sentence? Okay, here we go. Remember that one? It.
It.
Look at me, no. Look at me, look. Look at me.
I'm also employed as the ATAS tutor. That's the Aboriginal Tutorial Assistance Scheme. the role that I cover is improving the children's literacy. Most of the children, when they come to us in the upper grades, have missed a lot of school. A lot of them have had very little schooling by the time they come to us. So we need to do a lot of catch-up work, and that is one-on-one tutoring.
Click on create. Create.
And the evidence is there that this school is succeeding. We have the benchmarks and from our map testing program, and students there have been reaching benchmarks. We have students reading at grade level, and the reality is that those students didn't actually go to school before Colin came there. It's only since Colin has been there that we've had those students coming on a regular basis, and the literacy acquisition in that time has been phenomenal. So it's been highly successful from that point of view, that we now have kids reaching the national benchmarks in literacy and numeracy.
Halfway to the edge is called the radius. Say it again.
This year, end of June, I'll be visiting a new school. Yeah.
We've been fairly successful, we think, in what we've done with our children at Warrego, but we've not been successful in placing them in secondary education. We've tried boarding schools in the Northern Territory and in Queensland, and the children have come back because they haven't fitted in socially, or there's been fighting or whatever, and in all cases it's been fairly disastrous. We've tried Tennant Creek High School, and that's the obvious solution, but we've failed there, not so much because of the high school, but because the parents don't want their children living in Tennant Creek. At their most vulnerable stage, 12 and 13, they don't really want them back in town where maybe the evils of alcohol or the social life will cause the sort of problems that they move them out of there in the first place for. So we're really forced to look for alternatives. The numbers of children going on to high school in the Northern Territory from remote Aboriginal communities is in fact very low. If we can get one child into secondary school and make a success of it, that's one more than Warrego's done in the past 3 years. The thought crossed our mind that maybe we should come back and look at NEGS. After all, we'd modelled our horse riding program on what we knew about the NEGS program. If we had a child who was successful at riding, who rode well, that maybe we could send them to NEGS and they might stick on the basis that they had something that they could do well. We called in and saw the registrar, and she was very interested in it, but keen that we do some sort of try before you buy. So that's what we're doing here. We've got Latanzia here for a week. This is a chance for Latanzia to try out living away from home and living in a boarding school.
Are you a bit nervous?
Nope.
You're not scared?
Nope. Only a little bit.
In a system where children from remote areas often don't feel going to school holds much relevance, it's understandably hard for them to stay motivated. The comparatively few that make it to Year 12 have nearly all had to face the added challenge of attending a boarding school, often thousands of kilometres away from their home and community. These days, this is always the decision of their parents or guardians, who feel that it may be the only way their children can succeed.
That's why she went to the New England school, and she told us, well, I want to go and try it out and make friends up there, because he don't want to be with his friends around here. Every time they go to school, they probably won't go, they'll run off somewhere. They encourage themselves to go into town and forget about school.
And if you go another school, long way from your family, you'll be just right. You wouldn't wag, you wouldn't run away, and you would stay, and you would listen.
How are you feeling now?
Cold. I made an angel with my nighties on the grass in the frost. And when 180's on, isn't it? Ah, it's gonna bite you.
Now, so do you think one more go, right? Yeah, you can try it. You can kind of pass.
We've really got Latanzia here because we think that the horse program here might well give her the confidence to come to terms with the social and academic program, which are obviously going to be much harder for her than the horse show. If we're lucky, we might get her back here next year as a full-time student. That, of course, would depend on the availability of some sort of scholarship fund. It'd depend on our convincing the community back at Chanin Creek that this was a worthwhile thing to do.
Would you be lonely?
No,
Why don't you think you'd be lonely?
because I got a lot of friends.
Yeah, you made a lot of friends here already?
Yeah,
Who are they?
Catherine, Jamie,
Who's got the top bunk?
me and Latanzia. And there's another girl, Catherine. We used to always jump from that top bunk down to bottom bunk. So then we can jump up to the next top bunk, and it was really cool. And Miss Weedy.
You like Miss Weedy?
Yeah.
Who's Miss Weedy?
It's our house mother.
Obviously, NEGS is not going to provide a solution for all of the Warrego children, but it might well provide a solution for this particular child. Probably in the end, it's a case of looking for individual solutions for individual children.
Yeah, all right. Well, let's not get too excited.
One of the great concerns is that when Colin and Sandra go, we won't find replacements. And that's one of the big challenges, is the continuity of this program. Colin's nearing retirement age, so when Colin retires, what do we do then? How do we keep this program going? Are we going to find people who can fill his shoes there?
What's going to happen when he retires, when he finishes up, you know? Maybe 5 years or something.
That's right, yeah. And we're going to find another bloke, eh? It might be a bit rough, eh? If we can get next one, you know? Yeah. One a good bloke here now, old Baker fella.
Teachers moving on is a fact of life for all schools, and this school's no different. Eventually, I'll have to move on. When I do, it'll be an emotional wrench for me and for the children.
It's a 7-day-a-week job, so you have very little time for yourself. And at times I find that fairly confronting. As you see the children develop individually, that's probably the greatest rewards.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
I like to be a teacher.
And why do you want to be a teacher?
I like to teach the kids. Come on, Jamie!
Children like Latanzia are pioneers for their community. To succeed with a foot in each world, she has to be strong. If given a chance, she could become the school teacher she says she wants to be, possibly running a community school for the next generation of children at Mungalawuru. Liam, a fellow teacher, driving the school bus. Letitia, a nurse. And Jacinta, keeping the peace as the local police officer. And all of them watching Zoe and CJ on the television winning medals.
It's right side, isn't it? Hey, mister, look me.
One thing is for sure. Come mustering time on the community cattle station, they'll all be capable of lending a hand.
So if you want to see a room and you don't want to go to the zoo, the bush in Australia is the only place you'll ever see. Suit mama, suit be your kangaroo, kangaroo. There's nothing quite like a kangaroo, kangaroo, kangaroo. Suit mama, suit be your kangaroo.
I want to be a politician, and I can be rich, and I can be popular.